you guys, someone is actually going to be suing over spying on Americans. Now, we're 10 years past Edward Snowden's revelations that the government's spying on us. No consequence has ever happened for that. No one has sued the NSA or made them stop it. The CIA, none of that. Well, someone now is actually going to sue the CIA over spying, and the spying has to do with Julian Assange. So there are major implications in this case. This is a case we've been discussing where lawyers and journalists were spied on while meeting with Assange in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. What's unusual is that usually cases against the CIA and the NSA are just dismissed out of hand. This one was not. In fact, the judge just ruled, just within the last 24 hours, that the CIA can be sued and this case will go forward. It's an incredible turn of events in the Assange case because it will decide a few things. One, when an American, so we know there are rules, they're not supposed to spy on Americans. They do, but they're not supposed to. But do all of those rules go out the window when an American goes abroad or puts themselves in certain situations? And has the government been throwing out all the rules out the window in pursuit of Julian Assange? Yes, they have been doing that. So back to this specific case. Remember this video we showed you last year when former CIA director and also former State Department Secretary of State thought that he was posing for a photo op, but instead got served with a lawsuit? I'll refresh your memory.
Sir, P-U-R-S-E-R. And his first name is Benjamin.
So this guy, he thought he was taking a picture and he's like, here you go, lawsuit. So that's how that works. That kind of ruined his day. Now, here is one of the lawyers talking about how she was violated and her privacy was violated when she went to meet with Assange. She makes the case that that kind of put the stink on her because now that she, as a lawyer, has been a target of NSA or CIA spying, rather, what client is going to want to work with her knowing the government is watching? And that's a valid thing to, you know, how it's actually damaging to her. Watch her telling of the story.
On arrival, there was a strict protocol for the protection of Julian, we were told. Passports, mobile phones, cameras, laptops, recording devices, and other electronic equipment were turned over to the security guards in the lobby. We learned much later, through a criminal investigation under the supervision of a court in Spain, that while visitors like me were meeting with Julian in the embassy conference room, the guards next door were taking apart our phones, removing and photographing SIM cards, and we believe downloading data from our electronic equipment. Their boss, David Morales from UC Global, who appears to have been recruited by the CIA through associates of Sheldon Adelson during a visit to a tech conference, was making regular trips to Washington, D.C., to New York, to Las Vegas, reportedly to hand over thumb drives and to receive further instructions from his U.S. government handlers. In other words, during our meetings with Julian at the embassy, recordings of our confidential conversations and the contents of our electronic devices were being delivered into the hands of the United States government. I'm a New York lawyer. I have the right to assume that the US government is not listening to my private and privileged conversations with my clients, and that information about other clients and cases I may have on my phone or laptop are secure from illegal government intrusion. This is not just a violation of our constitutional rights. This is an outrage.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I should mention Rumble is down. Looks like someone attacked the Rumble stream. They might be under another attack. So our Rumble stream looks like it's down, but we are still live here on Oh, I almost said CNN.
Where are we? No.
Can you imagine if CNN just started running our show? Their numbers, their ratings would go up. Anyway, we're still live on YouTube.
Okay. I was going to say that's news to me. Okay. Now, U.S. journalist Kevin Gosztola has been following this case. He told us just a few days ago why this is so extraordinary. Let's recall how he explained that.
the allegations in this is that these individuals who tried to visit Julian Assange were targeted simply because they were there talking to Julian Assange. And there was some interest on the part of the CIA to monitor those people so they could use it to facilitate expelling Julian Assange from the embassy. And this case right now, we have not seen a dismissal from the judge. It's extraordinary. Oftentimes, allegations of spying or criminality by the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, they usually can enter a court and just invoke national security or state secrets privilege and say that there's no way that this could be litigated. But the judge in the Southern District of New York is allowing them to continue with this lawsuit at the moment.
Okay, now, again, think about this. Edward Snowden gave us revelations in 2013 about government spying, and nobody ever changed it or paid a price. The Obama administration paid lip service to certain changes, but nothing really ever changed. And we've seen how we were continued to be spied upon as American citizens through COVID and other means, and now they're using the guise of misinformation. Apparently, Edward Snowden and Julian Assange are not good buds. That's in one of their books that I read this year. That's just a little inside baseball gossip. But a few interesting tidbits about this ruling. The court did dismiss at least part of the case against Mike Pompeo personally. So he is at least partially off the hook. That doesn't mean he won't have to testify or present evidence, but at least personally, maybe the plaintiffs will appeal to drag him back in. The court also ruled that the plaintiffs did not have a reasonable expectation of privacy when meeting with Assange. So that's kind of scary, right? So that anyone who comes in contact with Assange should know that they are now a target, that they're going to be surveyed because he's a wanted man. I mean, think about that as journalists. Like, if we are talking to people who the government has a case against, who are defending themselves, that means us as journalists can be targeted too, which is what happened, right? It's almost like cooties, like, uh-oh, you spoke to someone who the government is targeting. Now they're going to target you as well. Now, what the judge is allowing to be litigated is two things: that they infringed on the plaintiff's expectation of privacy when they copied their phones. They also took pictures of the EIMEA number, which is like a serial number of your phone, so they can track even more. They literally just took them apart and copied things. And then also, let's see, the other thing, that they can seek injunctive relief against the CIA, means make them stop doing something. Injunctive relief is like, we want a court to order them to do something or not do something. So could they then get a court to rule that the CIA can't spy in certain ways that would apply to all of us? Possibly. That's kind of a big possibly, but I want to put it out there. More important, what we learn from this is, can the government just do whatever it wants with your phone? And can they spy in this manner? And meanwhile, maybe, just maybe, we'll learn of all the extraordinary ways that the government has pursued Assange from day one, which could have implications for the Assange case if he is forced to fight it in the United States. Because he could prove, or a part of his defense would be, I have been unfairly targeted and my civil rights violated by the United States. I think it would be fairly easy for him to make that case, actually. For example, did you know that when he left Sweden, before any charges against him had been filed, his suitcase went missing? That happened. He checked his suitcase with laptops in them, and it vanished into thin air, never to be found again. In fact, the airport traced it. The airline traced it. They said it was put on the conveyor belt. It was scanned in again at various points, and then it mysteriously disappeared.
Oh, wow.
This suitcase contained 3 laptops that had WikiLeaks material, including evidence of a war crime. This is a lawyer said that.
This is one of his greatest regrets too. Like that he traveled with he wished that he wouldn't have traveled with these laptops.
And also that he didn't check that he hadn't checked them too. That feels like a little bit like a rookie move. Like, you got to keep those on you. The thing is that he paid for that flight with cash because he was paranoid about booking things in advance on websites because he thought he was being tracked. He was. So to go to the airport,
take all these steps,
right, and then like check your 3 laptops in, it feels like just such a frustrating move. But yes, there was apparently more about U.S. troop activity in Afghanistan, and we just never got to see it, even though the Stockholm airport has, filed a criminal complaint and looked for it. Who do you think took it? The airport can't find it. And I mean, I know luggage gets lost, that's something that happens, but the way in which this luggage was checked, and then disappeared between like point C and D, clearly a NATO country government has it.
Of course,
right?
Of course they do.
Yeah. So again, just quickly, we discussed this yesterday, but in case you missed it, a date has been set for a separate case that Assange himself is fighting against extradition to the United States. That's been set for February 20th. This may be his Hail Mary. We're not sure. Now we have a bipartisan resolution in Congress. That's the HR Resolution 934, supporting freeing Julian Assange. If you're a U.S. voter or you're a U.S. resident, call your representative and say, we support this, demand that we free Julian Assange. If you're a UK voter, you can contact your MP or petition the House of Commons. You can learn more at freeassange.org. So that's your update on Julian Assange.
Amazing news. I've said it again. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think he's going to be released. I think he's going to get out. One of our viewers tonight, I was texting commenting back and forth on YouTube about, and someone said, because I said I think he's going to go free maybe after February, after we get this ruling. I think there's a groundswell of support, and I think yes, it's awful to have to wait till February, but I think there's enough pieces starting to be put in place now for him to be let out.
I just want to put him in my guest room and keep him safe.
Whatever you need, Julian.
You're okay.
You're
here.
A hero.
I'll make you some hot food. And,
you're a hero.
he
might
has
want to sleep
Asperger's.
outside for a year because he's been indoors. So he might want to just go camping out in the wilderness and just get away from society and be around no people.
I don't blame him.
He's not in a good way. In fact, he has a Portuguese doctor who's been. The doctor's laptop was hacked and the doctor's notes were taken. He's not healthy and he's extremely anxious because of, he suffers from Asperger's as well.
Well, from the CIA standpoint, this is exactly what they want because they know they can't extradite him without all of this. So they've been dragging this out basically as punishment. And that is the point, is the punishment. Yes. Being punished without being prosecuted.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, they go back and forth between, and also, I'm sorry if anyone who has Asperger's, I shouldn't have used the word suffers. I don't know if that's the right way to say you have Asperger's. And so they'll say, he's acting particularly anxious. We're going to put you in solitary confinement. And then when he's in there, he gets worse. And then they take him out and then they use that as an excuse to deny him access to his lawyers or to save free time, or they're like, he might be a suicide risk. So they mess with him all the time. They are currently still doing that.
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.